Ladies and gentlemen, if the audio came from the Department of Justice, if there was yet another leak, the judge should toss out the case immediately. This is according to Mark Levin, and I agree with it. Quote, there must have been several scores of leaks against Trump involving testimony, documents, audio, etc., and they're all obviously coming from the government. Trump's lawyers need to file an immediate motion with a long list of leaks as an exhibit, asking the entire case be dismissed because of prosecutorial misconduct and the government's efforts to influence the jury pool. Moreover, I would insist that the court determine the Department of Justice has opened investigations into these felonies. This needs to happen now. Now, if the rebuttal is, that's from another source, or it wasn't the Department of Justice, the DOJ has already leaked information to media. We know from Inspector General Michael Horowitz that bureau officials and wonderful, highly educated, morally superior liberal reporters, writers, teamed up and basically flooded the airwaves and publications with stories about how Trump could be working for another country. And then they would investigate Trump based on the stories that intel officials would leak to these writers. So it's like the chicken or the egg. Like, what started first? The government official telling a reporter what to write, or the reporter or the editor publishing the nonsense to deceive people into, forming an opinion of Trump. Notice that really quickly, there are no anonymous sources. People familiar with the matter, unnamed U.S. officials, current and former officials say regarding Biden or Hunter. That never happens. It's only current and former U.S. officials say Trump wants to devour the world. And you never find sources that give you any information. The Washington Post does not, the New York Times does not have a source that gives them information that's negative against Hunter or Joe or Hillary or Bill. The person doesn't exist. Okay? By the way, hit subscribe to this channel right now. If there's prosecutorial misconduct, which there will be, it'll result in a mistrial eventually, or it'll be overturned by the Supreme Court. I think that they'll try to get him on obstruction for January, which he didn't obstruct because he didn't commit a crime. It was a terrible day, shouldn't have happened. That entire summer of $1 to $2 billion in property damage shouldn't have taken place. I do agree with why people peacefully demonstrated that summer. I support why people peacefully demonstrated. But the $1 to $2 billion in property damage, the 19 lives lost, the 14,000 arrests, completely ignored by the morally superior among us. Clinton's servers siphoning classified data onto unsecured private secret networks outside the U.S. government, conveniently ignored by the morally superior among us. Hunter's laptop, with emails, with text messages, with communication between Joe and Hunter, showing that as vice president, he knew exactly what Hunter was doing, and he was part of the racket. This communication involves felonies. What Trump did with the audio, if you want to just go back to the audio and hit subscribe right now to this channel, if you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, and other publications, go to hagoodman.com. To my new Patreons, thank you. To the super thanks, thank you. He did say, this is secret. I could have declassified it. The context was they were all laughing. The context was he went after Clinton, or his staffer. He and his staffer were talking about emails. Clinton would have sent this via email. So Clinton actually said, I think Hillary Clinton will be the 24 nominee for the Democratic Party. I will lose my faith in the Clintons for their ability to do the impossible if she's not the 24 nominee. I wouldn't say it's not an impossible feat. You have mashed potato brains and really nobody else. So, and then Bill, Hillary, the DNC purchased the Steele dossier, got fined by the FEC, Clinton and the DNC, the Clinton campaign. Why would you go through those lengths to plunge the country into a new McCarthy-era Red Scare where, you have these imbeciles calling people comrade on the internet? It's like, what? The Cold War ended 30 plus years ago. But again, to Democrats, they're the JFK Cold Warriors, which, by the way, they're cheating RFK. Just side note, if you've lasted this long, RFK Jr. is awesome, brilliant. I have a great deal of respect for him and Tulsi Gabbard and anyone who thinks outside of a very fabricated, coerced consensus. Okay, when Democrats say it's a consensus, it's like, well, number one, other countries disagree, and number two, it's coerced and fabricated, and if you disagree with the consensus, oh my God, you should never have been born. It's a big problem. But anyway, if you're an expert or whatever, you disagree, oh my God. But RFK Jr., absolutely fantastic. He will get cheated 100%. There is zero way the Democratic Party will allow RFK Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard or anyone, if they're running for president, let's say she runs for president in the future again, but let's say RFK Jr. gets close to Biden, he is a much more viable candidate than Bernie Sanders, RFK Jr. And I say this because he truly believes in what he says. I think Bernie Sanders is a great human being, probably, but it's just part of a racket. He is a political animal, and he doesn't really believe anything that he says, because the second he was cheated, he just folded like, a cheap suit, and that's it. He's never even acknowledged that he was cheated. The entire stupid propaganda spin regarding the DNC emails was, the Kremlin wanted you to know how bad Democrats were because they cheated Bernie Sanders, thus helping Trump. You'd have to be a complete fool. You could have to be a gullible, naive imbecile to believe the nonsense. But anyway, RFK Jr. if he gets anywhere close, they will do the same thing that they did to Bernie Sanders. The hit pieces will continue. Oh my God. But anyway, how did I get into that tangent? Anybody they don't like, a very corrupt, insidious system doesn't like. It could be Trump, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard for a second. And I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet a long time ago. And according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders is the most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post, in 2016. For a second, Bernie Sanders, but then everybody realized that he was part of the racket. There's a reason that Medicare for All Democrats, that's another thing, will never pass Medicare for All, ever, because they already cheated Bernie Sanders. You already know that if they ever get close to any type of Bernie Sanders or in a different, paradigm of thought, RFK Jr., anything that is an obstacle or threatens the modern Tammany Hall will never be chosen by the Democratic Party or its voters. Never, ever. So I think that I'm just stuck on this now. I think RFK Jr. is absolutely fantastic. I'm obviously choosing Trump, Donald Trump. Okay, I want record low poverty we had with Trump, record highs in household median income we had with Trump in 2019, and I want the Doha agreement that Biden botched. But I want an American president that resists never-ending military conflict. I think RFK Jr. would be like that type of person. But see, if he's running as a Democrat, it's impossible to completely ignore the militant hawks, the corrupt people within the Democratic Party. But anyway, if you are a man and a woman with an independent mind, and you're able to think and you have critical thinking skills, the Democratic Party will never allow you to succeed. And they're going after Trump, which is hilarious because they're the ones who actually committed crimes. They don't even have the document that Trump is said to have not declassified. So that should tell you how inept they are. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe to this channel. Very possible the judge does toss it out if it came from the DOJ.